It's like I'm walking on sunshine.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Doomcast number 20. I am Charlie McGrath, founder of WideAwakeNews.com. Alongside me is my co-founder of Doomcast, founder of BlacklistedNews.com, Doug Owen. I'd like to welcome everybody on this 11th day of December, Wednesday. We're starting on time, on the right day, and I feel good about that. But please do not get used to it because we have proven one thing, that we are not very reliable.
I think we're reliable. We're just not punctual. We're not able to necessarily, and I think that we've done the best with the time schedules and
yeah.
Just, I think because we could really work at getting that day down and scheduling around it, but it's worked well. So
and we do that. We have that. I have a radio program and a job. You have a podcast you do on a regular basis and a job. So we're really good at doing the punctual, got to be somewhere on time thing. This is something that, we start out every program talking about how it's okay that we're slacking.
Yeah, I think that we always feel guilty a little bit.
We do. There's some guilt. There's some guilt there.
The Doomers out there deserve the best, and, we appreciate their time and all of the energy and support that they put into it. So,
well, I want the Doomers to know that they are getting a labor of love, because that's why we continue to do this every single week, and we look forward to it. And this is number 20 in a row. We have not missed a week. We might have missed the target day, but we have certainly not missed a week. And Doug, happy birthday. It has flown by, hasn't it? 20 weeks is, that's dang near half a year.
Yeah, next year we'll be able to drink legally in the United States of America.
Next week.
20 weeks. Yeah, we're at almost the halfway point for a year.
Yeah.
And, we were already talking earlier today about some of the new goals and
big
mission.
Things.
Yeah, mission for 2014, and pretty excited about that. Maybe we'll give some of those details out at the end of the podcast here.
Yeah, tonight. Yeah, big things coming, big plans me and Doug Owen have for 2014. We're excited to, and we're doing it because of you, either listening live right now at Doomcast.com in the chat room, or downloading this later from Doomcast or Spreaker or YouTube and listening to it. The reason we're going to make some very exciting moves is because of the phenomenal response that we get. It's, I don't know how to quantify it because it's downloaded from different places, but I can look on my channel and I see 1,200, 1,500 every single week listening to an hour, and looking at the statistics attached to these videos. People are listening all the way through, great comments, and that momentum isn't changed. So big, new, exciting things coming to Doomcast, to Doomcast.com. For live listeners, there's going to be some things, and some expanding to some guests, and potentially maybe even some more exciting stuff that's coming in 2014.
Indeed,
indubitably. All right. Well, here's what this is my. I guess technically I'm driving the ship tonight, and I do have a few things that I'd like to talk about, and I'm going to share a quick summary with y'all right now. Tonight I want to talk money. Money. Did you get the money thing I sent you earlier?
I did.
ABBA? Is it loaded?
You want the lady?
I want the ABBA. That's not the lady.
Oh, you want
ABBA.
The ABBA? Yeah. I've got
I feel really ashamed of myself right now. That's ABBA, man.
Oh, wait. I got to unmute it.
Yeah. That's what it's all about.
Money.
It's all about money. Yeah, the rich man's world, Doug Owen, and that's what we got. We have a budget.
Yeah. Looks like Luke Skywalker is in ABBA.
I didn't know that on that video. ABBA, as you well know, 70s, late 70s, early 80s group. You could be a manly man out there and say that you've never listened to an ABBA song and thought, that ain't so bad. It's kind of there's a femmy connotation if you happen to be an ABBA fan. But you know what? They made some good music. But that video I found today, I think she was trying to resurrect her career in the 90s or something, and it was a flashback kind of her.
This can't be the 90s. No way. This is the 70s.
No. When you saw them in their spangled outfits, yeah, that was the 70s. But then it cuts to the lady all in black, part through that video, and you could tell she's a good 20 years older than the people that are in the spangle wear. and that's one of the same singers. So I don't know the whole history of ABBA. I've listened to their song. I might have seen Mamma Mia in Las Vegas before.
You may have. You're not sure about that?
Well, I'm not sure. I might have seen it twice, actually.
Wow. Yeah.
I had a girlfriend at the time that really, really liked ABBA.
I'm sure. So
I know the lowdown. I know the lowdown on ABBA. But money, 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 mate. That's what it's all about. It's a rich man's world. Absolutely. And the news of the week, I put a video out yesterday on this. It is kind of being glossed over, kind of being talked about in the establishment media. But ladies and gentlemen, please mark my words on this. It's crow eating time. Financial events are going to be what dominates 2014. We all remember the budget deal. We all remember, the deal that ended the government shutdown. Well, they're blowing the caps. They're blowing the roof off sequester. And your neocon buddies out there that think you got Paul Ryan on your side and the neocons are on your side, forget about that noise. Paul Ryan, one of the architects of this House plan deal, along with Patty Murray, a Democrat from Washington, have put together a budget deal that is being touted as making sausage in Washington, D.C., Doug Owen. We're putting our hands together. We're pulling the pin. We're putting it to bed. We're going to put this to rest. All the catchphrases. We've got a deal. It's bipartisan in nature, and it's going to get this country moving forward again, as these turncoat backstabbing politicians like to say. But the thing on this budget deal, Doug, and I don't know how much you've read into it, it is a screw job of the American people. You're going to get screwed over again. So I want to talk a little bit about that, who it benefits, and who it really targets and goes after. Did you have any time to peruse these the highlights of the budget deal?
Oh yeah, lots of money, lots of government waste.
Lots of money, indeed, my friend.
Yeah,
money. It's a rich man's world. $22 billion sequester relief. Thank God we have sequester relief. $22 billion worth of sequester relief going to the very needy Pentagon. The Department of War needs this $22 billion because, folks, they're operating at this sequester level of only $600 billion a year above board budget. $600 billion a year. Now, we're not at war with Iraq anymore, right, Doug Owen? And Afghanistan's on a drawdown. We've been, go ahead. I see.
Oh no, I don't know if those things are actually happening, or it's so hard to define, what's happening in Iraq. But yeah, I mean, so I'm going along with you here.
Okay, well, I'm gonna go macro here then. Let's put it this way.
I'm going along here just to hear you out, and then I'll comment.
All right, you can come on in and square me away.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Okay, before Bush Jr. drug us into wars around this world. By the way, folks, we're still fighting them. I'm contradicting myself now. But we're still fighting these going to be multiple decade-long wars. Before Bush Jr. drug us into these terror fighting, spreading democracy and freedom around the world, our Department of Defense operated above board with $400 billion annual in budget. Now, we're sitting at sequester levels in 2013 of $600 billion. But that's just not enough money. That's not enough money to vanquish the terrorists from the world. So the first thing that's done in this budget deal, and the Hawks love it, the neocons love it, is to blow the lid off of the sequester. $22 billion immediately, $40 billion in the next 2 years that will be pumped back into the Pentagon so they can keep stoking the coffers of the military-industrial complex. It is absolutely beyond ludicrous to believe that we cannot function as a nation without a $1 trillion a year Department of War being policemen of the world and invading nations around the world and destabilizing the world. We are all being duped. And if you need proof of it, look no further than this budget deal. $22 billion for the Pentagon, $40 billion over the next couple of years. But what does it save, folks? What does it save? $23 billion is going to be reduced from the deficit, bringing it down to $20 billion deficit in this budget. These numbers were thrown around billions, and we're talking about this savings here and that savings there. It's all bull crap, because all the savings are weighted heavily at the end. In the year 2020, 2023, none of it is meaningful. None of it is the truth. The thing that we need to take away from it is the war hawks are going to get their money. The military industrial complex is going to get their money. And the people of this country, you, me, Doug Owen, everybody listening out here right now, we get to shoulder the burden for it. 1.3 million Americans tonight listening, hopefully eventually listening to this podcast, Doug Owen, 1.3 million Americans, and they might because they're unemployed.
That's conservative.
Yeah, that's that's a conservative estimate. 1.3 million of you out there that are waiting for an extension to your unemployment benefits because you've been out of a job for 2 years, or you have taken a hit at your home because your household, your net worth has fallen like most of the countries have. 1.3 million of you, forget about it because they're going to let it lapse. 1.3 million Americans are no longer going to be able to receive these extended unemployment benefits. And if that isn't bad enough, right, the same Department of Defense that kowtowns to the military-industrial complex, where are they going to get some more of this $23 billion savings that they're going to turn around and hand right to the Pentagon? Well, if you're a veteran and you're 62 years or younger, you're going to get to pay more for your retirement. So we're going to take it from the unemployed. We're going to take it from the veterans. We're going to hold hands on television. We're going to get a Democrat, Patty Murphy. We're going to get the fiscal conservative, Paul Ryan, to come on television and say, this is the best deal that we can make. Let's move the country forward. But it's not moving us forward. It's moving us further down the road of total domination by a corrupt system that favors corporate special interests and puts their failure and their fraudulent burden onto your back.
Well, I agree with you. And when you look at the $22 billion, of course, it doesn't take that much cash to go after Al-Qaeda or to go after these 19 alleged hijackers that we had initially started chasing back in September, right thereafter, September 11th, 2001, and even preceding that. It's pretty interesting because there's several congressmen that are trying to get these redacted and heavily secret documents and information about the Saudi nationals that were the ultimately blamed for what happened on 9/11.
Sure.
And so, how did we not go to Saudi Arabia, but we went to all of our enemy countries and others that we had strategic interest in? Obviously, the answer is pretty simple. I mean, when you look at the $22 billion, look at how we're fighting this war. Let's just talk about the war and the cash that you need. We're paying Hamid Karzai in cash money, not even ones and zeros. I mean, we're talking about the largest withdrawal from the Federal Reserve ever that was dropped onto pallets to the tune of $40 billion into Iraq. Even the generals are stealing money. I mean, it was absolutely bedlam.
Yeah.
I mean, these crazy schemes. You and I and everyone listening are amazingly appalled and shocked by. I mean, to the 2008 bailout and the emergency cash needed to reignite the economy and the world economy, mind you, and to offset the potential for martial law, as many of our representatives heard. They gave money to NASCAR for their tracks. They were buying iPhones for people to see if that would help with their smoking cessation classes. I mean, when we talk about budgets, it's so beyond.
And we still have
trying to justify them. I mean, obviously, it's just crazy the money that's spent, and the more ludicrous and out of control it is, the less people actually want to engage in this discussion. This is a psychological operation on a lot of fronts, because when you start just listing all of the fraud, the crony capitalism, the military-industrial complex, the push for resources, people just glaze over because it's just so it insults you. It really pisses you off, and you feel like you're a dope. And
Doug Owen, you're right on that, and that's a great point. I'm glad you brought it up, because not only do we have that same phenomenon when we're talking numbers, right? When we're talking fraud, waste, and abuse. Right. It's everything. It's political scandal. It's scandal in corporate America. It becomes so overwhelming that the natural response is to throw your hands up in the air. I don't know if it's a natural response. Let me rephrase that.
Well, you should be pissed off. I think
the desired response is for people. What'd you say?
You should be pissed off.
Yeah, well, yeah, and I think that's an initial response. People get mad. I'm gonna go vote. I'm gonna get my guy in there, and he's gonna fix things. And then then there's frustration when the realization that nothing is going to change. So the end result is a populace, a proletariat, right, that sits back and just says, well, I can't do anything about it. I can't do anything about it. So what's on? I'm going to watch NFL. I'm going to watch UFC. I'm going to,
right.
Tap out. They're going to tap out because they feel that they cannot affect change, and the system is so far out of control. It's so overwhelming that they're just going to step away. So that's what happens in a lot of cases. And I do believe that's a desired response.
Yeah, you're just kind of overwhelmed with it. I see, I have to give people spoonfuls of this manure, and it's pure crap. It pisses me off, and I only want spoonfuls of it myself. But, I'm a glutton for punishment and maybe a masochist and enjoy reading about how the government and people in it and special interests are all ahead of the Bill of Rights and the Constitution in the current system, not just in the United States, not to bag on our government, but across the board and around the world. So, I mean, what we're seeing in the Ukraine is an interesting development. It shows how there's this huge shift in perspective, and people are tired of the oligarchs in it's so much so that they're willing to give up their sovereignty to the EU in the Ukraine, and just the overt corruption and fascism that has now come.
And there's plenty to talk about in Europe. And folks, you first heard the term when we started talking about austerity back in 2009. You first heard that coming out of Europe, right? And it isn't done. It isn't done by a long shot. We've taken a 6-month or so hiatus, maybe even close to a year hiatus on the notion that Europe is going down a toilet. But that is going to come back into focus without a doubt in 2014. Maybe even before then. But before we do that, Doug, I want to stick it home for just a second, because today I sent you a clip of what's this joker's name? David Stockman. Did I give you that?
Yeah, let me see. I've got it here in my basket. Let me see.
In your basket of goodies. I'll give you a second here. I'll give a little background on him. He is the director of Office Management and Budget, was for President Ronald Reagan. And he was on Pete Santelli, who I really, really like Pete Santelli. And I know a lot of people think in independent media that he is just a sold-out dude. But I like his perspective, and I like how he, is not afraid to at least dabble in the truth once in a while. But he had him on his program today, and he wanted to talk about this budget deal or budget betrayal, as Stockman referred to it. And it's about the first minute or so, Doug, if you got it.
No, I'm trying to. I got Eisenhower. I got ABBA. I got the budget deal.
Okay.
Let's see.
All right. Well, it was a link.
Man, was it Goldcore? Was it on Goldcore? Let's see. Money News.
No, it was on CNBC.
I've got the CNBC lady here talking. I just had her. Where's she at? I just saw you.
Let's see if I.
Yeah, well, here she is. She's probably going to be talking with David Stockman. That's probably the good.
Finance ministers have wrapped up a 16-hour marathon negotiating session here in Brussels, and we've failed to reach an.
Nope. I think that's just a further on feed, and it might. I was a little tentative to send that to you because it wasn't a YouTube video. It was one of their in-stream videos that play
budget every time that went. We got Ryan Murray deal.
Yeah, let's.
Yeah, if you just tell me which one of these it was on.
Well,
CNBC.
CNBC, that's it.
I don't see it. I see Money News. This is entertaining radio right here.
But I got Bloomberg. This, and I'm going to click on that. Well, let's move on. And I'll see if I can find it.
I can play more ABBA. That's pretty good stuff right there.
No, not ABBA. No, because one of the other clips that has to do with the same topic domestically. I wanted to make the point that this budget.
Summate for us there.
Yeah, are you okay?
Yeah. I just poured a little tea down the
I heard
side
a
of my
tinkle
keyboard.
sound.
That's all right. Go ahead. I'm listening.
You're getting a little excited with ABBA over there, aren't you?
Yeah. It's I'm hoping they're coming back real soon.
Yeah, don't think you have to worry about that. But on the domestic front, one of the other clips I wanted to play, which is Eisenhower, and this is a 1.5-minute clip or so, but he is a mainstay, right, for the independent media, because this is the guy that planned the D-Day invasions, right? June 6, 1944. He was the dude that came up with the plan. And he was so convinced it was either going to be massively successful or so convinced it was going to be such a massive failure. He had written a letter of resignation, taking the blame for the whole thing. Just all accounts of his personal life and how he carried himself before, during, and after, and becoming president was that you have to believe, even if he was corrupted by the system, there was in his heart a general who understood how the military operated. And I wanted to make the point and bring this up again tonight, even though it's been heard quite a bit in this community, that this budget deal, just so much of the norm coming out of establishment media, coming out of Washington, D.C., and when we look into it and see that it's nothing more than more boondoggle for the Pentagon, for the military-industrial complex. I want to play just again what President Eisenhower, former General Eisenhower, said when he was leaving office to a BBC during a BBC interview covering that point in time. So do you have that ready to go, Doug?
On at least one occasion, Eisenhower was heard to say by those in the room, "God help this country when somebody sits at this desk who doesn't know as much about the military as I do."
Now, there's just a brief break here, and it's showing his speech when he's leaving office, and that's what it continues on with here.
This evening, I come to you with a message of leave-taking and farewell, and to share a few final thoughts with you, my countrymen. We have been compelled to create a permanent armaments industry of vast proportions. 3.5 million men and women are directly engaged in the defense establishment. The total influence, economic, political, even spiritual, is felt in every city, every state house, every office of the federal government. We recognize the imperative need for this development. Yet we must not fail to comprehend its grave implications. In the councils of government, we must guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence, whether sought or unsought, by the military-industrial complex. The potential for the disastrous rise of misplaced power exists and will persist. We must never let the weight of this combination endanger our liberties or democratic processes.
All right, there you go.
Yeah, and definitely, I don't think any truer words could be spoken. You know, the undue influence of the military-industrial complex.
I don't know, maybe the bankers, maybe the Rothschilds, maybe the Rockefellers. I mean, if you look back to the time, look at the people that benefited and who were profiting. Let's not forget all of the other, the military-industrial complex is the profiteering and making cash and weapons for wars that politicians and people support. So I think ultimately, though, you can put a lot of blame and look at the influence and how that is, how these groups molest the politicians into creating war in some circumstances. But this comes out of the need for war. This comes out of the machinations of the elite. So not to say that it's a complete symptom or side issue, but I think that, you know, it's not just something that's unique to the United States, and it doesn't just drive global and foreign policy. It does. I mean, the terror industrial complex is a fine example of how there's a new domestic industry that is catering to the rise of the police state and catering towards this new, the $22 billion budgets. I mean, that's where the money's at. That's where people are going to be creating tasers on drones because there's some crazy general that says, "Hey, I need that. Yeah, we can win this war right now."
Right. But Doug, I mean, that is the same industry. The terror industrial complex, the security industrial complex, the military industrial complex. That's interchangeable. I mean, there's no separation there. And yes, it is a populace that supports that, but it's a populace that's deceived that supports that because of the open door policy between the general officer staff of the military and Raytheon and General Dynamics and Boeing and all
cheap.
these
I mean,
other.
You get them Lady Gaga tickets, and they're in there, man. I mean, these guys get compromised with next to nothing. I mean, just
they get compromised because they do a 30-year stint in the military, retire as a 4-star, and then they're jumping ship and making $2 million a year working to promote tasers on drones.
Can I sidebar? Can I sidebar for a moment?
Sidebar.
Did you see the squid logo on the latest NSA satellite? It says we basically. Have you seen it? Have you seen the imagery?
No, I'm looking right now.
Oh yeah, just put squid logo NSA or new NSA logo, and you'll see it there, and the listeners can do this as well. But it was a pretty big story because people were appalled by this badge that shows this octopus basically engulfing or wrapping itself around a globe and saying we can reach all. I think that's what to paraphrase. There's no one we can't reach. But, you know, I thought it was funny, and I'm sure that you know this as well. You were in the Army, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, you've seen some of these badges. I mean, I remember that on the boat that I was on, it was a ship, a destroyer. They had outboard, and that's where basically you have all of the secret communique that is being received, the intelligence for whatever the mission may be. And they had it on their door. It said it had the all-seeing eye, and it's looking down the globe. It looks very similar to the Total Information Awareness, exactly like the Total Information Awareness logo. And it says, "In God we trust, all others we monitor." And so you know, it's funny to me because now the general public that used to be so infatuated with the idea of war and in love with war are now looking at some of these logos, and I mean, some of them are horrible. I mean, you know, racist. I mean, they're just. I think that they symbolize what the government is all about, and what the NSA, the NRO. This is a nice, I think, a National Reconnaissance Office satellite that actually had this logo on it.
I'm looking at it. It's freaking. You got to be kidding me! It's like out of a comic book, right? And it's like the evil villain circling the earth. NROL 39, nothing is beyond our reach.
There you go. But it's kind of ridiculous because it just tells you exactly what you know that they're all about.
Yeah.
And people are like, "Wow, I'm appalled." I'm like, I mean, you should just look at, you know, half of them. They're all really appalling. And now that you know that there's a domestic application. Okay, it's not that they're just spying on the bad guys. People are now starting to realize, hey, this shit's for us.
Yeah, it's cute. It's cute when it's death from above, right? Kill a commie for mommy.
Yeah,
it's cute when it's that.
Right.
But when it's this satellite's going to be looking, you know, with infrared through your house to see you making time with your best gal.
Yeah,
it ain't so cute anymore, is it?
Yeah, like Rand Paul said, you know, it's not okay for drones to look at you in your hot tub. That's just creepy.
It's true. Creepy. Rand Paul's kind of creepy.
Hey, you used to bag on me. I've decided to not talk about Rand Paul anymore, though he does have a super plan for Detroit in lieu of their bankruptcy.
What's his plan? I don't know Rand Paul's plan. I know
he's got economic corridors. Basically, it would be basically like a tax shelter, and you know, you could one of the problems is that you have so much overhead because of the corrupt government cronies and the pension systems and all the things that, well, the government in Detroit hasn't bankrupted out of yet. So basically absolving people that want to do business or to encourage them to do business, incentivizing them, tax breaks, less money going to the federal government, looking at different state options. So, I mean, he has a multi-point plan. And if that is the future, and that is what is embraced, then we're going to see that, and well, I think you and I both agree it's inevitable that they will be, you know, but there will be bank bail-ins, and they will be giving the Americans and the people around the world the Cypriot haircut, where, you know, oh, well, you've got $200,000, you're an elite, you're rich, even though $200,000 in a decade probably won't really be much.
No.
Yeah, I mean, you're maybe a 3-bedroom home, you know, in suburbia.
Yeah, it's 300,000 here. I mean, 200,000 there. Maybe I should move to Austin because, you know, 200 grand is nothing. And most retirement folks who've been working for 20 years, they don't have that in their retirement, and they don't have access to it to get it out before these proverbial haircuts and bail-ins happen to the people of this country. But guys, that's been the plan from jump. That has been the plan since the staged implosion of 2008, the blowed up housing market, bailouts that occurred then, the promises of we're going to stabilize this economy and we're never going to let this happen again. It was 100% a staged con job, a setup, and there will be a sucker punch coming to the people of this country and the world, and it's called a bail-in. It's happened in Europe. It's happened in Cyprus. It's going to happen in Greece. It's going to happen throughout the rest of Europe, and it is going to happen here. Unfortunately, you are not Jamie Dimon. You are not too big to fail. You will not be able to get your funds into your possession before they decide they're going to steal it from you. But that's exactly what is going to happen, Doug Owen. Well, we will have a crisis, and the next one, they'll say, Dodd-Frank, no more bailouts, folks, bail in. They've set the stage. The EU's doing it right now.
Yeah.
We had Mr. Stockman slated for today. Right. How appropriate. All right. If ever I had a guy, you're my budget guy. Tell me your impressions after combing through some of the numbers of what has been put forth by both parties yet to be voted on.
Well, first, let's be clear. It's a joke and a betrayal. It's the final surrender of the House Republican leadership to Beltway politics and to kicking the can and ignoring this budget monster that's hurtling down the road. They're busting the caps, and it's totally unnecessary. It's going to add $70 billion to spending this year and next year, and then they're going to pretend to save it in 22 and 23 way down the road. They've not only kicked the can down the road, they've kicked it into low Earth orbit. You know, it's unjustified. Let's look at what they've done. Defense with the sequester is $600 billion of outlays. We can easily live with that. Prior to the, Bush wars and invasions, we had $400 billion in defense spending in today's real dollars. 50% more, and they can't live with it? Do we have any new industrial state enemies in the world? No. Are there greater threats in the world? No. Have we been fired as the world's policeman? Yes. So why can't they allow the defense sequester to happen? They should. The House side. If we let the sequester happen and not bust it as they did, $580 billion of domestic discretionary spending. Bill Clinton left with $400 billion in today's dollars. He wasn't starving Head Start or the National Health Institute and all the rest. There's plenty of room, but they're unwilling to make the tough choices. Now, I understand Democrats doing that. The only hope of getting our fiscal situation under control is if the House Republicans stand up, and they've totally capitulated. And I think it is going to trigger an enormous negative reaction from the Tea Party Republicans, who ought to go after every incumbent Republican who votes for this abomination.
Now, when we talk about kicking the timeline, David, we're not talking about kicking it just maybe till the midterms. Why don't you tell the audience, in your opinion, exactly what this timeline really is?
Yeah, that's the thing. When you take a 2-year vacation on the fiscal budget, and that's what they're doing, locking it in through October 1, 250.
Okay, so kicking the can. Yeah. I get it. Yeah, but down the road. And this makes sense because, and I listened to Rush Limbaugh today for a little Republican analysis on the budget deal, and he said that the Republicans know that they're in a better position, and they don't want a Ted Cruz shutdown where he's talking about Dr. Seuss and green eggs and ham. They just don't need that, according to Rush Limbaugh, according to the neocons out there that sold the war and sold the military-industrial complex, and won't talk about the massive problem that we have funding the Pentagon. I think that the only disconnect that David Stockman has here is that he doesn't understand that the goal and intent of all of this is to create a domestic police state. Kicking the can down the road, continuing to militarize the United States, so that if all of these horrific economic machinations don't bring fruit, don't bear fruit, we might have the need for the other. And that's where we're at. I mean, you have, if people, I don't understand why they're so perplexed. Why are they spending so much money on the military? Oh, but have you looked outside? Do you live in a major metropolitan area? Have you noticed that your local police department got a free tank? Talk about the military industrial complex. I mean, you paid for that tank, and guess what? You paid a lot of money, and you're going to pay more for the maintenance, the upkeep, and they're bound to want to use that tank. So the police department in your local area, if they do get trigger happy, then they're going to have lawsuits because they're running the tank through people's yards. And before you know it, somebody wants a couple $1 million. You're on the hook for that. They're going to have to borrow the money, and they're going to have to pay, 10, 15, 20% interest, or just tax the crap out of you to pay for the lawsuits. I mean, that's what we have. We have a police state economy.
Yeah. And then maybe even take that incident, Doug Owen, that the MRAP had to be rolled out on, right? Because they had to serve a warrant. Yeah. But they went into the wrong house. They killed the wrong parakeet. They killed the wrong dog. They shot the granny with no teeth, and then they pay a big fine. But they can, the Joint Terrorism Task Force can check that off a list as a domestic terrorist, a thwarted terrorist event.
Oh, somebody's going to sell that down the road. Tell people.
But you know what? You're right. And I want to disagree with you because I like arguing sometimes. But you're 100% right on Stockman. I thought his information was very much valid. Clinton left with $400 or $500 billion budget in today's dollars. He's not talking about the 90s. He's talking about if we transfer that to today, it was still today's dollars. We did just fine. The Pentagon had $400 billion. We did just fine. But where he strays, of course, is in the realization of what's really going on. Yeah. And you don't have to be smart to figure out what's really going on. It is about building control. Doug calls it building out the security state. I call it building out the zombie state. Right now, 2013, with this $1 trillion of additional spending, with this $1 trillion a year deficit spending, we get 50% of the people that need the government in order to put food on their table and put beer in the fridge. What do we get if we kick the can down the road to 2015, 2016, 2020? We have a nation that is dependent on this government to the point that you are subservient to this government. And for those of you who find your sack, ooh, I sound like Eric Lovely now. I'm yelling at people. For those people that find their sack in that golden moment of truth, when you decide if you're going to be a sheep or you're going to stand up for yourself, they got an MRAP waiting for you.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
that's hostile. Yeah. I was hostile there.
It could happen. If you envision it, you may bring it to fruition. If you ask for it, if you believe it's going to happen, you may be able to get that to happen.
You're lame. That's funny though. If you can envision it, if you can dream it, it can happen.
It can happen just for you.
Tony Robbins joining me tonight on Doomcast.
I was looking at this infographic, and it's called "Abolishing the Department of Homeland Security." The infographic. So you're talking dollars and cents here, and you look at when you put some of these things in perspective. Okay, we spend for let's see, hold on. Let's see. Every year, in Florida, they spend $111,600,000 for the commander of Coast Guard District 7 in Miami. He has a stylish 6,200 square foot home leased by taxpayers. So let's just talk about the waste all over the place. Some of the money this is in the budget, okay, and this is due to the Department of Homeland Security. We spend $100 million in Washington, D.C. and in Tanzania. When the first family was visiting Tanzania, the Secret Service spent more than that entire country's economic output in 1 week. You know what? Text the guy and give him $100 million. People were so upset about Barack Obama shaking hands with Fidel Castro. I think that, he's getting a chance to meet his hero. I'm just surprised that he didn't tongue kiss Fidel. But he actually met up with one of the cannibal warlords and, is taking snapshots with him. Not to mention the fact you have Bono and George W. Bush. They're all holding hands. Oh, my God. The Daily Mail. You talk about wanting to puke. I don't want to derail the conversation, but we could talk about the waste and the dollars and cents.
You know what? You hold out this good stuff on these infographics. You always find these.
Yeah.
You always have them on your site too.
You know what? People send them to me, and these are probably just advertisers that make, because it's like from securitydegrees.com. So,
yeah, it's still packed full of fun facts that I like to go over in a lot of my videos. So
6,200 square foot house that's leased for this a-hole by the Department of Homeland Security. 6,200 square feet, $5.7 billion nationwide, is spent to ensure the original 5 anthrax deaths don't happen again. Automated DNA testing, air sniffers were installed in many public buildings. You know, these things didn't work. They never did, despite the fact that they don't allow testing for air at till 36 hours later. Oh, so they're not going to stop anything from happening. They test the air, and then in 36 hours, you may find out that there was anthrax at the JFK airport. You know,
yeah,
you've already got the bubonic plague.
I mean, I'm reading just the overview of it here. The DHS was formed so that this would not happen again. 22 agencies that occupy 70 buildings in 40 locations, reporting to 108 Congress members. What a goat F that just the logistics and communication are. And then let's take a look at the cost analysis. 17 people died from terrorist attacks last year. 17 Americans, rather, died from terrorist attacks last year. So, to think this isn't a military-industrial complex tycoon's wet dream is to be completely amiss on this, right? Yeah. Because this is a war, right? This is a fear. It's a cloud. It's an apparition. It's a phantom that you can never shoot and kill, who can never surrender to you. You can never go to his country, plant your flag, and say, "Yay, America, we win." It can go on forever until the nation is 100% broke and in disarray. But they got that covered too, folks. They got that covered too, because that's the other side of the military-industrial complex that is morphing before our very eyes. We call it the security-industrial complex, Doug Owen.
Well, I think about the preeminent police state, or maybe one of the finest examples of a total transformation into a military state, and staying in that paradigm for many years. And I think of North Korea. I think of, the madness of, just not realizing that you have to change with the times, and that ultimately living in the 1950s and arming yourself to the teeth and giving every person military training, giving every person a gun to thwart.
You ever watch any of those documentaries, those hidden documentaries of North Korea?
Yeah. I mean, Vice has done a few of them, and
it is so surreal. It is so surreal to watch those. Oh, yeah. I could sit there on a Saturday night or something, get on my computer and start and they'll be 4 hours long, and you just can't stop, because you can't believe that people are so sold out. This is what sheeple, true baptized sheeple, who've grown up in it and have been propagandized their entire life from cradle till grave. This is what happens. You believe the mantra to the point where they're starving to death by the bucket load. They can't. Simple things that we eradicated in the 50s, they are killing people in school by the droves over there. It's crazy. So I mean, that's what's happened when you end up with total government control. When those that know better than you, when you buy into that crap, those that have your interest at heart, when you believe it long enough, you end up with North Korea.
Yeah, I mean, we're more worried about trying to save 7, 8, 9, 10, maybe 20 Americans per year from terrorism than we are about educating and feeding our children, generations. I mean, you just. Not that I'm a socialist, but I look at some of the real problems, and I wish that we saw more people angling to solve these. 22,000, or maybe it was 23,000. We'll go with 22. 22,000 children in New York City are homeless. Okay, that's not a state. That's not a country. That's a city. City. 22,000 children. And I don't know what the answer is. And of course, we're not going to be able to really come to that on this podcast. That's a huge debate, and quite honestly, my point is that when you look at the real issues that are going to plague this society, that when we have people that are brain damaged because they're malnourished, that are poorly educated. They're the voting masses. They're going to be the majority. They're going to be the people that, some people would probably refer to as the sheeple. And this is what, that's what they sound like. And they'll be coming for you. So if you want safety, if you want to look towards a generation that can come out of what we have descended into, then we have to, look towards the children. And that's something that gets neglected by all of these war hawks and by just all of this. We have a prison to, or a school to prison pipeline. Yeah. Where basically you have now, I mean, in a lot of places, kids that, you know, they're tardy, they get in trouble in the lunchroom. The next thing you know, they're ticketed by the police. Yep. They don't go to the bench warrant, or they don't go to the court. They issue a bench warrant. Before you know it, somebody's kicking down the door, and you either end up with a record that makes you unemployable, or you start making widgets for the, you know, Corrections Corporation of America. Maybe you're going to be doing, you know, whatever it is that they're doing that day, making clothes clothes at slave labor prices. I mean, some of that stuff, I mean, I can go on and on, but you know,
you're right. As a matter of fact, I saw an article just 2 days ago by Press TV. You know, take it for what it's worth, but 27% increase in U.S. prison population over the last couple of years. And you're right. I mean, it is an industry unto itself. You know, if you don't believe it, just Google prison industry. Google your state, and then prison industry, and you're more than likely you're going to find somebody making a fat bank off of, you know, rehabilitating prisoners. And let's face it, you know, we have more prisoners in the United States of America, 310 million people, than China and India combined, and a big chunk of them are due for what, Doug Owen? Marijuana. I mean, that, you know, we put people on a fast track to prison. We pretend like we're a compassionate nation, but you know, if you peel back the fluff and you look at reality, we're not a compassionate nation. We don't take care of our own. We don't have an even fair playing field for the people of this country, regardless of what you're taught, regardless of what, again, a Jamie Dimon will get on television and tell you, or a Paul Ryan will get on television and tell you. It's not an even fair playing field. You can't be an entrepreneur like you used to be able to be an entrepreneur in the United States of America. If you're not tied in, plugged in, and shoveling cash to the right person, you are at a disadvantage. So I think it's very appropriate to look at the condition of you know, the lower classes, because they're obviously expanding in this country, Doug, and it's going to continue to get worse, and it will be ignored, it will be glossed over, and we'll get sensationalized pop culture to tell us that everything's okay, while we can go outside our door in New York and see 22,000 homeless children.
Yeah, just remember, the only reason that we beat China is because they just kill their dissidents, or they put them in labor camps, and they, you know, so take that for what it's worth. And the statistics that Chinese officials may give you might differ from reality just a smidge.
Oh, you're talking about the prison population?
Yeah. If they didn't just assassinate people and have gendercide and other just, you know, one-child policies, and you know, we could go on and on and on, but they're moving. Their middle class is expanding. If you look at the trend where they're going, it's actually in a direction
really bizarre. You know, I've been there and looked at I looked at a factory over there for my day job, and saw the different levels. You know, saw the high end, so the tier 1 cities, they call them, Beijing. You know, and you wouldn't know any different, other than the language, you know, but you'd still find English there. You wouldn't know any different than going to New York or San Francisco. It's a very modern major city. But as you get out, you know, as you leave San Francisco, you don't go into the Stone Age. When you leave Beijing, you know, for every 100 kilometers you get out of Beijing, you go back a few more decades, and, you know, you get out there far enough, and it's third world once again. So definitely they have a giant population that they need to try to figure out how to either keep employed in the lower caste class, or move into the upper or to the middle class, or they're going to have domestic problems of their own.
Yeah, well, they already do. They've got their own problems. They've got lots of problems, and so we're seeing empire and the creation of wealth for a few, and these inequalities that are going to be driving anger. They're going to be driving revolutions, and those in power, those with lots of money that want to continue to have that power and prestige, are going to do everything that they can. Prestige. You have to talk like you're from Connecticut. Prestige. Those people are going to do everything they can to stymie that. They're going to do everything that they can to create a media that's sympathetic. And that's one of the things I just wanted to wrap it up with, looking towards Russia. Vladimir Putin trying to have a stranglehold on the media, and of course consider that this is Western media, and what we hear a lot of is exaggerated, and there is a media war against Vladimir Putin right now, but he's taking a lot of heat. When you look at what's happening in the Ukraine, you're seeing this pro EU stance that is sweeping the nation, and so he, just like many other political leaders, I mean, you look at Saudi Arabia, times are changing, things are changing. The awareness that people now have, the politically aware people in these countries are expanding. More and more people have a voice through the internet. I mean, I don't know if you saw what's happening in the Ukraine, but I was watching last night. I was enamored. They had police with chainsaws chasing protesters, chopping. They tried to do the Occupy Kyiv thing, and that it's not like here in the U.S.
It's not pepper spray. It's a McCollum chainsaw.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't see anybody getting hacked up, but the fact that I'm sitting here in Round Rock, Texas, in my den, in my office, watching this is pretty extraordinary. It's pretty amazing, and you just two things I take away from that is that, one, I believe that I'm watching what's happening in some other country, and it could all just be something that's being fed into Ustream. I always think about that first, like, well, this could be a manipulated reality, because that's just how cynical I am. And two, the fact that we can see this, how does that change the discussion? I hate the idea that we think global and act local. I actually like the adverse, the antithesis, and that is think about your local community, and that we should extend that globally. Do you want somebody polluting the creek behind your house? Do you want somebody maybe strip mining or fracking next to your water supply? Maybe not. But people don't mind if it's happening in somebody else's backyard or in another country or in the Congo.
Right. And I think the disconnect is dangerous.
Right.
Because like it or not, but believe it or not, the things that Doug's talking about, you see happening in the Ukraine or the Congo or North Africa or
Dallas suburbs.
Well, I was to say, if you think that it can't come here, well, then you're wrong. I mean, it isn't like, what we see happening in Europe right now. We've spent the last, I don't know, it seems like the last eternity, but probably the last year talking about the Middle East and North Africa. And, the argument can be made that they were never in advanced economies and they weren't advanced as the West is. But looking at Europe, the European Union, looking at Russia, that's draw parallel to what we have here as far as advanced economies. And when you look at Spain at 28% unemployment for the youth, when you look at the Southern Europe that is in that zone of misery that leads to revolution, understand that isn't something that's just going to happen in Italy or Greece or Cyprus. It certainly could happen here as well, Doug. So to disconnect completely from what you see, if it is reality, if you determine that it is reality and not the dog or the tail wagging the dog, understand that it isn't just a show happening in another country. It can certainly happen here.
That's right. That's right. The takeaway is that when corruption and I think the lack of opportunities arises, that's when you're going to have people that go to the streets that are going to want their voices heard. And it's one thing when you and I bitch about foreign policy or domestic spending or the transition from a free republic, if there ever was such a creature on this continent, into what we have now, which is, I don't know. I mean, when you look at you put it to the metrics and you compare this country to other countries, I don't know where we fall compared to, say, Saudi Arabia. At least we let women drive here and we don't stone gay people. Not that I support or really. I just don't think that we should have government that is absolutely out of control. Although what we have now is a completely rogue state where our voices for a long time haven't mattered. absolutely have not mattered. But when you have when you have a million people in the street, things change. People are like, oh,
I agree with that. And there is a few things that put us in a column that is different, right? You know, especially post World War II. We are the global superpower.
You know why, right? I mean, really, ultimately, Europe was at war and they wanted to store their gold here, and that's where they put it, and that's why we ended up in the pole position that we've been in for the last 60 years. And that's really, I mean, you know, some people would say that's an oversimplification. I think it's the exact reason. I mean, when you're at war, you don't want somebody just saying, "Oh, that's a lot of gold in that vault. That's nice. I'll go ahead and take that. Thank you."
Thanks
we will melt that down and put my face on it. That's going to be great. Thanks.
A Doug Bloon.
Yeah. I would buy one. I might sell one to all of my plebeians once I have that gold. Charlie McGrath.
Well, oversimplified or not, it is the case that we are in the pole position, and you see people, you know, running down the street, banging pots in Argentina or freaking out in Cyprus or Greece. It's because their nation isn't in the pole position. Doug, I know we got to wrap it up, but listen, the pole position isn't going to last forever. We have the world reserve currency right now. So what does that mean to the people who are not in the streets, and what would it take to get them into the streets? The loss of that major pole position, the US dollar, and the ability for this government to print money out of thin air and kick the can down the road and stoke this takeover of freedom by this social safety nets they're calling them, but what they really are is entrapments for the people of this country. When that starts to lose when the government starts to lose its ability to pacify the populace with fiat dollars, it is game over, and that's when you'll see the proverbial people in the streets, and that's when you'll see the MRAPs running them over with chainsaws. Maybe
that could happen. I mean, it's a possible scenario. They may be able to get us into a Bitcoin or now the patented JP Morgan alternative to Bitcoin. How pretentious is that?
Oh,
I mean, does that symbolize being completely out of touch when you don't? You know, we should patent our own Bitcoin when you can have you can make your own Bitcoin system right now. I mean, it's open source. So, I mean, the idea, and then there's other cryptocurrency systems. I know that Max Kaiser had one that he sold it was bought and patented by one of those big companies. I don't remember which one, but I heard him talking about it.
So, how many thousands of Bitcoins you sitting on right now?
Man,
I see him stacking up behind you.
Everybody has that horrible story, right? I've got an old e-machine that had a Bitcoin wallet on it, and I had somewhere in the neighborhood of close to 100 Bitcoins at one time that I can't redeem. I don't have the code. I don't have the wallet. I don't know if I could, but it's one of those, you know, you feel, could have been a billionaire by now, maybe.
Could have been a bit billionaire. What are we at? 600, 900? What are they at now? What are they rolling at?
Oh, I don't know. I'm not vested. I'm not vested in the Bitcoin, so I haven't been keeping up lately, but the Bitcoin has been making a lot of, the one thing that I have to say that has impressed me is that despite all of the media hype and the attempts to demonize and to destroy Bitcoin, it seems to only continue to be more interesting and alluring to people because the price keeps going up. And now that China has decided that it's not going to be a currency, but it's really going to be, I think they're going to consider it an asset. I mean, it's kind of betting. I mean, that's what people are doing right now. I think I just saw a statistic, 962 people own over half of all the Bitcoins.
Yeah, I saw that too.
So, when you think about where we're at today with the current US dollar, or other fiat currencies, and the amount of consolidation into the hands of a few, it's kind of already happened with Bitcoin.
So 962, and the phenomenon that is continuing to explode.
Jump the shark. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, without a doubt.
Without a
Doug
doubt.
Owen, blacklistednews.com, Charlie McGrath, wideawakenews.com. Doomcast 20.
Yeah.
It's in the books.
It's in the books. Yeah, well, it was great, Charlie. I thought that we really hit some great topics and look forward to
all about money, man. It's all about money.
Yeah. Money, guns, and a tank for everyone.
That will turn it around, brother.
Yeah, that'll get us out of this.
You know, Canada's been talking smack lately. You know, there's a large landmass up there.
We're coming for you, Canada, with your square wheels and all that crazy stuff up there. Don't forget us. Doomcast.com is the website. We'll be back next week. Until then, take care. And stay warm.
Yeah, it's cold here. Below zero. 17 people killed by terrorists. Let's spin the treasury till it's in oblivion.
Oblivion.
There is only one holistic system of systems. One vast and immense, interwoven, interacting, multivariate, multinational dominion of dollars.